Okay, so welcome to the second part of this presentation. I've sent out the meeting link for the WhatsApp group, and I think now we could spend some time looking at the course, its structure, and the nature of what's going to be going on for the class. All right, so are you guys seeing the screen here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, so the first thing I want to do is minimize that. No, not this. Right. I'll go to my email. All right, so this class is all right. So I've already put you all into the class, I believe. In terms of participants, I have everybody on my class list so far. As you can see, there's some people who are missing. We have 10 participants overall, which means I am missing somebody. Because there should be 11, including myself. So let me find out who's missing. So Bob, Jacob, Balchan, Justin, Maharaj, Javon, Thomas, Walker. All right. Hey, Walker, you just kind of came in. All right, so let me enroll you one time for this class. All right, so now you're enrolled in the class. All right, so now we could look at the layout of the class itself. So as people spoke about, let me turn off editing. Hold on a sec. The two textbooks we're using is the Exploring Leadership text and the Leadership Experience by Daft. These two textbooks are the key texts that we're going to be utilizing for the semester. There's a course outline. It's not very well done, I would say, but you could download it and have a look at it if you want. But what's going to be more important is the course schedule with details. The personality test and test interpretation and course map. You all can look at these. The personality test is something you can utilize later on when there's certain aspects of what has to go on. But there are also some other resources that you can utilize for personality testing. The course concept map was just to give you an idea of a visual interpretation of what this course looks like, what it deals with. And the course schedule with assignments, that's what we're going to be looking at in relation to what's happening for the class. So let's move to that document and we will begin to work with it because we have some decisions to make in relation to that situation that's going on there now. So I'm going to open this document. Now, I did do some work on it in terms of setting up some dates and stuff. So this is the schedule of planned activities for the class in terms of what is going on for the semester. So you notice that there are a number of presentations to be made. And I'll have to remove these names that are here because this is from another class. Said not I'm not reinventing the wheel. But we have a special circumstance here that has to be dealt with. Now, and we have the deadlines for the various other activities that we're looking at for the semester. Now, most people, when they talk about the class, they want to know, like, Okay, so how is the class being assessed? So it's been assessed using 5 pieces of assessment. There is a presentation exercise, there's a midterm debate, a midterm exercise, a debate exercise, which ends off the activities for the entire semester. There is self-analysis that has to be completed and a leadership and action plan. And these 5 items come together for 100%, and you can see the weighting of all of them. Now, the first thing that we're going to be looking at is, in fact, the presentations. That is the schedule that you see above you here. And that is identified in here. So generally, how we're supposed to do this is that in small groups, you'll be required to create presentations on various chapters from the main text of the course. And you'll be assessed utilizing the following layout here that is identified for determining what you're doing. You're marked out of 100%, but it's going to represent an overall contribution of 30% to your final grade. So what we're looking at is in your presentations for the chapters, these are group chapter presentations. We're looking at your ability to cover all of the main content from the class. So content coverage, which is critical. How you've used examples in your...
Are you...
Sorry? Ask that question again, please. Hello?
So excuse me, because I think to leave. So let me leave and come back.
Okay. I think she's having some sort of problems.
So I think she was asking if you were changing the screen or not because the screen is off the class activities.
Okay, so I'm barely making you out. Yes? Hello?
Hello?
Hi? Is it that I'm breaking
Hello?
up? Hello? Hello?
Can you hear me now?
I'm hearing you,
Hello?
but I'm hearing you, but you're breaking up.
So I think she was asking about if you were changing the screen.
The screen view.
So you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
I think that she was asking if you were changing the screen or not.
Yes, I
Because,
was.
yeah, if it was just, I think she was asking if you were changing the screen or not. The screen, our schedule of activities, but you're talking about stuff as if it's stuff. Okay, she's still stuck on the class schedule. So we didn't see layouts or anything else but the class schedule.
Oh yeah, because it was the class schedule and I was scrolling down on the class schedule though.
So,
Yes? Hello? Hello?
oh, it wasn't moving at all. It wasn't moving. That's what she was asking. So,
Yes, I'm hearing you. Yes?
hello?
Hello?
Yeah, it was not scrolling. It wasn't scrolling down. So,
Hello?
you hear me?
Yes, I am, but you're breaking up a lot.
She was asking if you were moving the screen at all because you said you were scrolling down, right?
Yes.
But the screen wasn't scrolling along as you were scrolling, so we stuck at the top of the screen while you're scrolling down.
I see. All right, so that has to be a Wi-Fi issue. Are you seeing the screen now or just the list of students?
I'm still screen, so but as you're scrolling down, the screen is not also scrolling down. It's staying at the top.
All right, that is the function of the Wi-Fi connection. It might be a bit slow where you are or slow where I am to pick up. Latoya, you're getting through now?
Yes, so I'm back in. I needed to leave and come back in.
All right, okay. So are you seeing the assessment and evaluation assessment 1
Yes,
page?
seeing everything now.
All right, good.
Yeah, I think it's my internet on my end. I think.
It could be because I'm hearing you kind of breaking up a bit. All right. Okay, and I'm seeing people are joining the WhatsApp chat, so that's good. All right, so as I was going through the aspects of the mark, how the marks are allocated for the presentation. So we're talking first off about the content coverage. When you go through the chapters, it will determine how much, well, you'll have to make sure that you cover all of the key content from each chapter for your presentation so that you're not going to miss out anything from the chapter. How well you've used examples in your explanations and the clarity of that explanation as well. Now, what I've always found is that the text comes with some examples, but it is useful for you to utilize local examples to make it a little more user-friendly for us, simply because the examples in the textbook, because they're American in nature, tend to come out of the American culture. So what you're looking for are local equivalents, and the way to best do that is to, develop your own, from your own experiences, pull upon those experiences to give some sort of examples for things that you've been dealing with there. And that will assist with clarity of explanation, because the clarity of the explanation is going to be dependent upon how quickly we can identify with the examples that you're utilizing. All right. Now, as you get to the end of your presentation, the expectation is that you'll be able to make recommendations to the class as to how to proceed forward given the information you've shared with them about that particular chapter. And as with any presentation, we'll also be looking for your use of an introduction. Let me just update this, and a conclusion as tools in the process of presenting, doing any presentation. So we're looking for the use of introduction and conclusions in presentations. All right. So let me just clarify that there. So that will count for about 60% of the marks. The next 25% we'll be looking at your style of delivery. So primarily what I'm looking for here when we talk about style of delivery, I'm looking at how well you were able to balance between reading out of the text or reading from the text and delivering more narrative conversational approaches to the material that you're dealing with. I expect that there will be some dependency on the text and what it provides, but I will expect that you will also be able to add your own discussions and examples. So that's why I said, if you find your own examples to explain, it helps to bring up your own discussions with it. Then another area is the quality and degree of class interaction. Now that's important because what you want to do is to be able to ask open-ended questions that will elicit responses from students to be able to, for other people who are listening to the class, to participate in what you're doing and to develop further understanding from it. So sometimes you might be able to ask a question as part of an exercise, a little quiz that you could run with the class to be able to get interaction from the class, because then it will be able to improve the quality of the presentation, because with the class interaction, we can get different points of views in relation to it. Also, asking questions or being open to questions that are being asked from students. Now, out of necessity, I cannot be part of the process because I'm supposed to be assessing your overall presentation. So I can't be part of the presentation and assess it as well, if you understand what I mean. So I have to hang back from asking questions and stuff. I would only interject if there's something going wrong or if things are getting kind of what's the word I want to use? Kind of misdirected. Another element that we're going to be looking at is your presentation aids. Primarily, what we'll be assessing there is the nature of your PowerPoint presentation, because you would basically take control of the screen and you would start presenting material. So you'd have to design your PowerPoint presentation based upon the content that you have, and you can add images or other text, or sometimes you might find little movie clips that will help to, and I want to say little, I mean short movie clips from YouTube that you could help to explain or bring depth to the explanations of the content that you're going to be dealing with in the textbooks. Additionally, I'm going to be looking at time management and how well you use the time and whether or not you're able to stay within the allotted time frames for the presentations, and we'll discuss that in a little bit further. And of course, with any projects that you're dealing with, 15% is also put aside for citation. And there are two ways to do it. You could either produce a citation list at the end of all your slides, or you can cite along the way when you're putting material down on your slides. You put little small captions with the sources of your data, and you can use in speech while you're speaking. You can cite your sources or cite the authors for particular things. So, for example, that's done when you say, according to Karl Marx, so and so and so and so and so, and you make reference to the person and their publications when you're talking about that particular content. All right. So this will be the last 15%, and that amounts to 100%, and you'll be getting a score out of 30. The way it's done is on the days of presentation. After you present, we will then meet privately, and we will discuss your presentation, and I'll give you your scores and breakdown for it. So right after you do your presentations, you get your scores on the same day, so that you'll know where you stand in relation to it. Now, if this class remains at 10, we have a little challenge because there are 10 chapters to present from the textbook. Now, if you look at the schedule here, today is the 16th. Today we're doing the introduction and planning stages, right? I am going to be taking the next 3 sessions, this September the 23rd, the 30th, and the 7th of October, to present to you chapters 1 to 3. Now, the materials for 1 to 3 are already on the eClassroom. There's a little video here that I did with chapter 1 and the preface. So if you click on it, you'll see this. You'll need to look at this, where I go through the material for that. And chapter 2 and chapter 3, you have to download the PowerPoint presentations and utilize them to kind of go through the material. And then what we will do is on the day of the class itself, on these dates here, we will get together and go through those PowerPoints together and discuss them. So rather than me just coming there to present the material, I'll be going through the material with you, and you can ask questions to get further explanation, because the nature of these presentations are quite detailed, and they will require a lot of analysis and the ability to break down, so that we'll understand a little more as we go through and we deal with chapter 1 and move forward from that point. All right, so far so good. Everybody's understanding everything? Now, as I said before, we have a challenge, and I need your input here as to how we're going to. Let's assume that we stay with 10 people in the class. Now, we're supposed to be in small groups. Now, to be able to accomplish small group activities, we need to have at least 2 people working together per chapter. But if we only end up with 10,
that's true.
All right, if we only end up with 10, then it means each little group is going to have to present twice. You follow me? So we'll have presentations 1 to 5, and we'll have small groups working there. We can't keep the same groups and then let them do 6 to 10. And then we have to work out an arrangement as to, well, how do you get marks for it? Because it's almost like you're doing the work twice, right? Yes? So we want something of parity. So there are two ways we can work this out. In that I split the 30% into 15, and each small group consisting of the same numbers will tackle 2 presentations, and I mark each one out of 100%, and then I then determine what your overall score is going to be when you do your second presentation. Or you present twice, and I simply take the highest mark from the 2 to be able to generate your score out of 30. So you get 2 bites of the cherry, so to speak. Now, this is where input is required in terms of how we actually going to plan this thing. We know we have a few people absent, so I mean, but we do have 6 people in class. So we have the majority, so we can make a decision because the vast majority of the class is here. All right, so speak to me. What do you all think is a good way to do this? Your input is required. Huh? It's not a choice now. Don't all rush now. So the options are this, or maybe there's another option that I am not seeing that you all can suggest. So either you do the two, assuming that the class stays at 10, you do 2 presentations. I split the 30% by 15 for each one, and then you get an amalgamated mark at the end of 2 presentations. Or you do the 2 presentations, and I choose the best of the 2 marks to get the best of the 2 presentations to get your final grade, or the 30%.
So we're going with the first one, please. That's me.
Could you option that is possible?
Yes, I'll repeat again. So what I'll do is that I will split your presentation marks by 15. 15 for your first presentation and 15 for the second presentation. And when I score you, I'll score you twice. And let's say you get 90% of the first one, that's 90% of 15 plus, and you get 95% in the second one, that's 95% of 15, and I add those together and you get a total score out of 30. Or the other option is you do the both and I score them individually. You do the 2, and whichever one is higher, you get that score as your final grade. So like in the first one, you did a real good job and you got like 96%, 97%. And in the second one, you didn't do as good because the material might have been a little more complicated and you know, you were having issues with it. And you might have gotten, let's say, an 85%. So I say, okay, well, we'll throw out the 85 and we'll take the 97%, and that will be your score. So that's the 2 options I can see, unless you all have some other option that you think might work. You understand it now, Ms. Jacob?
Yes.
All right, and I want, so far I've only heard from 2 people. How do other people feel about those options? Now, email service, who is Michelle Bob, keep on forgetting. Michelle is good with the second version where we split the 2, or is that the first one?
Yeah.
All right, so 15 by 15. So that's
Yes.
1 for 15 by 15. How do other people feel?
Yes, I cool with this split 15 by 15.
All right, that's 2.
Yes, sir. That is all right.
Latoya, that's 3. What
I agree
Mara?
with that as well.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Walker.
The second option.
Where the better of the 2?
Yeah, the 15 by 15.
Oh no, that's the 15 by 15. Okay, cool. And Jacob?
So I'm on the fence.
Why are you on the fence?
So I'm weighing pros and I'm weighing pros and cons. And
So let's discuss the pros and cons. What are the pros and what are the cons?
the splitting the mark. The pros of that are, if you do good on both, it bumps up your mark either way. And
Right?
if you do, if you like
That is
let's
the
say you
purpose
get a
of it,
60,
darling. That's the
Yeah.
purpose.
No, give
if
her
you
a
get,
chance to finish first.
or like let's say if you get a 60% on the first mark, on the first one, and then get 80% on the other one, that bumps up your mark.
Right.
But also, if you fail the two of them, your mark is doomed either way.
Well,
But
the idea
regardless,
is not to be doomed, right?
not to be doomed, but just as a con. And the second one, it I mean, if I fail the first one, so I'm not planning to fail any. But
Yeah,
let's
but
say I fail
you could learn from the mistakes that you made.
yes, and I could, be able
Yeah.
to pass the second one and use that mark instead of the not so good mark.
Yeah, I want to agree with Miss Jacob there. The advantage of the second option is that if you do well in the first one, then likely when you do it the second time, you'll do it even better. Because now you've gotten practice. And then I get to take the higher mark of the two to give you your final score. So maybe let's say you started off and you got a 88% out of 100, right? In the first one, that's a fairly good mark. That's a B plus. But then we discuss your presentation and I point out to you where the shortcomings were, where you might have lost marks. In the second go round, there should be the expectation that things can be done better. Yes? And as Ms. Jacob is saying, you're at least guaranteed a B plus going in. You don't want to get less. So you're aiming for a higher grade in the second go round. Now, it can be counterproductive if in your first presentation you did such a good job and you got maybe, let's say 97% or 98%, and you're saying, well, I can't do better than that the second one. So you don't pay attention to working and getting the second presentation done well. And this is where, Ms. Jacob, if each one has validity and its count towards your final grade, then you're going to put greater effort in it across the board. You follow what I'm talking about? So this is why I think I would agree with the rest of the class if we split the weighting of each presentation 15 by 15, as opposed to just the best of the two. Because if you do well at the beginning, and then that puts your second presentation in danger of being kind of lackluster because you already have an A in the bag, so to speak. You understand this, Jacob?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I think I will go with the 15 by 15. That I think will be the fairest treatment of things, to avoid people maybe shortchanging a little bit on the presentations. Now, with that being said, we need to work out. Now we only have 6 of you here, right? And we have 4 people absent. So technically, we can only create. All right, so let's look at the chapters before you start making some selections. So the first presentation after I finish on the 7th, I am dealing with chapters 1 to 3 out of the main textbook that's Exploring Leadership by Gomez and Lucas and the others. There are three authors. And the first chapter is Understanding Self. The second chapter is Understanding Others. The third presentation is chapter 6, Integrity and Moral Purpose. Chapter 4 is Teams and Groups. Presentation 5 goes to the other textbook, the DAF, where you're going to go back and treat with Courage and Moral Leadership, which is related to integrity and moral purpose. Then we go back to the Exploring Leadership in chapter 9, and we talk about being in communities. Then we go back to chapter 8 in presentation 7, and we deal with complex organizations, that is leadership and ethics and complex organizations. Then we switch text to the DAF text, and we deal with vision and strategic direction, chapter 13 from the DAF text. Chapter 9, we deal with the DAFT again. We go backwards. So we start with 13, go back to 12, and we look at power and influence. And then the last chapter is chapter 15 from the DAFT, the chapter on leading change, which is where we're going to wrap up the semester. Now, with the 6 of you all here right now, we can only, what I'd like to do is I'd like to assign one of you to each of the first 5 presentations, and the 6th person can choose their partner now. And I'll assign to you from the people who are absent, the 4 other groups, somebody from the class who's not here, and hope to God that they turn up by the next class, so that they will know who their partners are. That's why I was asking the question. And are any of you all familiar with these names here, so that you might be able to possibly let me know if you know them and you could contact them. Any of these names look familiar? Walker, I think Justin is in IT. Yeah? I think I had him in another class before, but he's either in IT or graphics. I can't remember which one. So none of the other names who aren't here. Let me just highlight them so that you would see which persons are not here right now. So I can assign each of these individuals to you in the different groups as your partner. And hopefully by the time we come around to presentations, they would have turned up in class and we could assign them. Or for that matter, as we begin to get more people in the class, we might be able to change the configurations a little bit.
Yes, sir. We think we have to do that, you know.
Yeah, I think it's the only way for us to move forward.
Because right now it's tying us up.
Yep, it is. Okay, so what I want to do is give you all the first, as I said, chapters 1 to 5 or presentations 1 to 5. I want to give you all a chance for you all to volunteer for whichever chapter, whichever presentation you think you want to do. Now, I'll let you all know up front, just to be for clarity, the earlier chapters tend to be a lot more simple to deal with. And there's a great, obviously a greater likelihood for you to do better there. As we start to progress into the DAFT and the others, the ideas become longer and a little more convoluted, so that they become a little more complicated to deal with. That's from chapter 6 moving forward, or presentation 6 moving forward, sorry. The trickiest ones in chapters, the first 5, is really those chapters on moral courage and moral purpose. Those are, but they are critical chapters to present because they are an important element, as this course is about leadership and ethics. These are critical to a lot of the discussion we have to engage in for the rest of the course. So I want you all, I don't want to put anybody anywhere, and I would like you all maybe to volunteer yourselves for different chapters. Hey, remember we're dealing with the
So
first 5 now.
presentation 5 for Latoya.
Thomas, presentation 5. Okay, that's one.
So chapter 2 for me, presentation 2 for me.
That's Bob.
Yes.
Presentation 2, understanding others.
Presentation 4 for Shalana, Teams and Ruth.
Say that again.
Presentation 4, Shalana.
Shalana, all right, Ms. Maharaj. That's teams and groups,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir. I'll take presentation 3. Jovan Samuel.
Samuel. All right, I think I heard somebody trying to come into the class. Oh, Jacob fell out again. Well, that sucks for her.
So I'll take one.
You'll take chapter 1, Walker?
Presentation 1.
Presentation 1? Okay. All right, so what we could do now is, because Jacob kind of fell out and now came back in, Ms. Jacob, you get to choose who you want to work with. Ms. Jacob? Hello, Ms. Jacob.
Hi, sir.
So, well, what happened is, I think while you fell out of the class, people were volunteering for presentations 1 to 5. So you don't get to choose a presentation, but what you can do is you can choose who you're willing to work with from presentations 1 to 5.
Okay, sir, no problem.
So now you could look at the individual that you're working with, or you could look at the chapter that they're working on and determine how you want to work with it. You let me know. Oh, we need a decision today. Anyway.
Sir, I think I would like to do understanding self. Presentation 1.
Mr. Walker.
Yeah.
All right. Let's copy that and. All right. So, Mr. Walker, you see who your partner is, right? Yes, Mr. Walker?
Yes, sir.
Right, good. So you all know you need to start, because you all are the first people to present from the class, and that is carded for October the 14th. So don't wait until the 14th to start reading the chapters and stuff, because that's what you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to read the chapters fairly quickly. And you have to read them more than once. Okay, so that means I can assign the other individuals to the other groups. So I can give this person to Miss Bob. I'm just going to do it as they are on the class list. And as I said, pray that they all turn up. Chan. Justin. Okay, that brings us to the next. So we don't need this list here anymore. But what we need to do now is, for the teams that are here and the speaker for each team, which will be you, is to determine of the next 5 presentations, which ones you would prefer to be your second bite or your second 15%. Right, so as Miss Jacob was the last to be able to choose in terms of people who were here, I'll give her first choice of which other chat. Well, you probably need to discuss it with Mr. Walker. So let me allow you all to chat together and see if you can figure out, of the other 5 presentations, which ones you all think you might like to look at. You all can talk to each other, you know. You all getting first dibs. Just to give just to be a little fair to Miss Jacob, because she was absent initially.
I could choose teams and groups.
If it's okay with Rahim, I kind of like power and influence. No, you don't have to be.
Power and influence. Walker, how you feel about that?
Sure, no problem.
Now remember that's from the DAF textbook, right? That second one, power and influence. All right, so this is your second bite. All right, so I think I heard Miss Bob saying something. Michelle?
Teams and groups.
No, teams and groups is gone already. That's in the first 5 chapters, 5 presentations, sorry. You're choosing from presentation 6, 7, 8, and 10.
Lead and change.
The last one, all right. Right. Okay, Samuel, Mirage, and Thomas, what's your preference? You
Yes,
have
I'll go to the vision and strategic direction.
That's presentation 8. All right, cool. Mirage and
Organizations.
complex. All right.
Yeah.
That's Maharaj.
Yes, sir.
Well, that gives. I kind of put this person in a little unfair spot here. Thomas. Is Thomas still in the classroom? Somebody wanna swap with her, please, because that's a little unfair for her to be doing 2 presentations back to back like that. You wanna at least have a little. So Mirage is already getting 1 in between, so we can't move Mirage. Would either Walker or Bob be willing to swap? With being in communities to give people a little more time to work on things. Hi, Latoya. Hi, Latoya. But she's not here. Is anybody willing to make that trade? Can you all hear me? A sneaky suspicion. Might have lost you all now.
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay, I was just kind of worried there that I lost everybody. Miss
I
Maharaj.
think it should be okay, and I will still have a week with my group mate to prepare, so it should be okay with me to switch.
So you want to go up to being okay.
Yeah.
You'll still have 1 week. Yeah, but I don't particularly like that.
Yeah.
Samuel, you're willing to trade places to give Thomas at least 2 weeks between, because when you go there, you would have at least 2 weeks to work on your presentation. Sam, Jovan, not sure they're here. I can't see the no, Jovan's not here. He's dropped out again. People having real internet issues. I guess it's Friday night, that's why.
That's what I hear. So remember using the other account. So yeah,
Right,
just support
okay.
him there.
But you understand what I'm asking you to do is to, help create a little more distance between one presentation and the next, so that Thomas could get a little more time between, at least 2 weeks. So even if you move from presentation 8 back to presentation 6, you would have 2 weeks. 1, 2, yeah. Well, you'll actually have just 1 week actually.
1 week.
Yeah. Well, she will be doing it. So for example, Latoya can't do 6 and she can't do 6, 5 and 6 because 5 and 6 is the same day.
You
understand?
Yeah. So like, you know my time is too not so sorry.
Yeah,
Interpreters
yeah.
will be switching.
Who's this? Hello? Didn't quite make out the question that was being asked. Hello? Yeah, no, Miss Mirage, you can't oh no,
So
you can't because the 21st was the week before that you would be working on teams and groups. And then the following week, it doesn't make sense for Miss Mirage to come up. So it has to be somebody like Walker, Samuel, or Bob who are not going to be that close to the week.
So well, I fallen on that same week there too. So with the 21st, so that I then
Yeah, as I was thinking the same thing. So it can't be any of presentation 3 or 4. It has to be presentation from presentation 1 or 2. All the way down here so that it'll be either Bob or Walker. Would have to trade off with Thomas for one of them.
Well, so if it's all right with Makira, we could switch.
Right. So
okay. But so what if that's the case, what days will we have to present?
so your date is the 14th of October for your first presentation, and the second presentation will be the 28th of October. So at least you'd have a week in between your second presentation.
That's good. That's fine with me. Yes. Yes, sir. Bob here.
That's Bob. So you willing to swap out the 11th? All right. So let me pull you up then. Put you here. And I can then put Latoya and Majigan down to week 10. Let's see if that looks overall fair. So Walker is first presentation, 14th, second presentation, the 11th of November. Bob is the 14th, then followed by the 28th, roughly 2 weeks. Then Samuel is the 21st, and then the 4th, right? That's good. Mirage, the 21st, and then the 4th, right? So that's good. And then Thomas is 28th, and then the 11th. All right, that looks fairly fair. Now we do have. All right, so the idea would be is if we have, let me just save this before I lose it. The idea is we will have, if we have new people coming in, I'll simply add them to the groups. Because I don't think at this time we're gonna end up with like a whole 10 more people coming in. If we do get 10 more people, then we could set up the groups as groups of 3 if we get 10 more people. Yeah, 10 more people will be able to set up 10 groups of 3. No, we'll get 10 groups of 3. We'll end up with an odd number. So we'd have to reconfigure some of this. It may mean that we could drop off your second presentation. So if you end up with only one presentation, then you'll only be marked on the one presentation for the entire 30%. That's if we get enough students in. That makes sense? Guys?
Yes, sir.
So we'll have to, I think the add drop period ends when? What I have here, the add drop ends on dropping and adding deadline, September 25th. That will be next 2 weeks. So we still have about 2 weeks of adding and dropping. And then after that will be withdrawal. All right. It'll be the danger when you have registration still ongoing. All right. So we have an arrangement right now. What I'll do is I'll update the document online with this new schedule. I'll PDF it so we don't get we don't have anything messing it up. All right. Okay. So by the November the 11th, it means we should be finished with all of the material from the textbooks, and we'll be able to start to take that material and start to work with it. Now, the first piece of work that you're going to be dealing with is a midterm exercise. So let me explain to you the midterm exercise. I'll skip the debates for now. Is 20% activity, and it'll take the form of 3 compulsory short response questions completed as an individual assignment submitted over the course of 1 week. So I have it set up here from the 18th to the 27th, but I can open it right after we finish on November 11th. Now, there's a reason why I kind of leaving that gap there. Because I'm trying to look at holidays. I don't see any holidays for us in. We have the 24th, which is a holiday. The October 24th is a holiday. That is Eid, not Eid, Diwali. And that's the only holiday I'm seeing there. September 24th as well, but we're not on that day. We're just before. So we shouldn't be affected by any holidays, but we can get affected by other issues. So I just want to leave that time frame between the 11th and the 18th, just in case we have any sort of issues, if any group that needs a little time kind of thing, just in case we go off schedule then. All right, so in essence, what's happening with the midterm, we have 3 short response questions that you're going to be looking at, and when you do it, you will submit your answers or your responses here. Okay. Now, I've set the absolute due date for this as the 17th of January next year, and the midterm exercise is going to look something like this. I should have taken this out, but this is from the last. I have to take this out. From here, it has instructions as to how you have to design the paper and what you have to do, and I'll have to clean this up a little bit because this is for a previous class. But you have 3 questions broken up into parts that you're going to have to deal with, and generally what's happening with this, let me take this out of the e-classroom because it's not the actual one that you're going to be getting, so I need to go back and turn editing on. Go to edit this and delete this from here. All right, so I'll put in a new thing closer to the date that we have to deal with. All right, well, I don't want you all to have the wrong assignment. So basically what they are really are 3 questions on specific areas of the course that we covered, and it's going to ask you to reflect upon the material that you've dealt with there in the context of your own personal experience. So it's a reflective paper, but it's reflective to specific parts of the course program that we dealt with. All right. And it will count for 20%. So between your first presentation, well, your presentations, your chapter presentations, and the midterm, that's 50% of your work, your score for the semester. All right. The next item, well, we have the debate here for 15, and we'll come back to that in a little bit because that is scheduled for the end of the semester. I have it down for the 23rd of December, but I am willing to work with the class if they want to move the date out of that Christmas week into a week before. Because I know that could be kind of hectic on a Christmas week on the
But
23rd.
sir, we have 2 days. Sir, we have 2 days before Christmas.
Yeah, but the
You're
week
not
of
nice.
the week of Christmas is, sorry, what?
No, sir, you're not nice.
So you want to do it on the 16th instead?
Well,
Yes,
if it is,
sir.
yes, sir.
Let's make that decision no one time. All right, so let's do that. I have no problem with that. So the
Okay, it's 2
all right,
days.
all right. No, I know, but remember, I have to work with the course calendar I'm given here. And our course calendar says the last teaching day of the semester is the 24th of December. Woe be it for people who have a class that ends on the 24th of December. But I
No,
understand.
sir, no class will be ending the 24th of December.
Trust me, I have taught classes on Christmas Eve already. When we did
Christmas Eve?
face-to-face classes, we did do that. We would teach straight up to
All right,
Christmas Eve.
okay.
It's be annoying, and most times that class is usually a little fat more than anything else. But it's be annoying because Christmas week is not a week to be in Port of Spain as well, because there's so much nonsense going on.
That's right, sir.
Right?
You know the thing.
And there's
Right.
so much that you're trying to get done at home and all that kind of stuff, especially if you have a family to look after, because the children are all excited about Christmas and adults more so sometimes. Anyway, so that's great. I like the idea of moving out of that Christmas week and getting it sorted out before. Now, the debate exercise, if we stay at 10, is going to be even more challenging because I think we may not be able to tackle 2 of these topics. We might be able to tackle 1 topic because the way in which I normally do this is that I set it up as 3 teams to handle the debate. Now, if we get more people into the class, then yes, we can organize it. And basically, each team has to have at least 4 people. And if we do that with only 10 people, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So I can actually set it up as each team has to have at least 3 people. So I can do each debating team has 3 speakers in it. So I can go 3 by 3, and the 4 that are left over will end up being mediators who will mediate the debate. If we do it, we could, yeah. But we will have to tackle 1 topic only because I can't expect that the same set of people will be able to prepare. But we could probably debate for a longer period of time and have a more involved debating process. So we could work on the technical issues with this after we finish all the content and the midterm. You'd see there's a gap between the midterm going in and the debate exercise. There's actually no presentations or anything going off between the 27th of November to the 6th. So we have time to prepare and get that done. However, during that time, you have the other 2 assessments going on. So that brings us to assessment number 4. Self-assessment or self-analysis. Reflect on how you have become who you are and compose a brief but well-organized autobiography. We're not looking necessarily for a chronological history of your life, but obviously chronology is going to be an important element because you didn't develop in like a you didn't just drop into your life today. You came up during your life, and therefore, as you grew, development took place. So chronologically, you might have had things happen, people come into your life and leave your life, and those kind of things tend to influence going on. But even if you're looking at it from a chronological point of view, you have to be more analytical and reflective in looking at the influences of these people and fact and events that help to shape the person that you are today. Now, if have any of you all ever done this before? done this sort of self-reflection?
No, I haven't.
All right, so this is a one that you can actually start working on almost immediately, because you can start by writing up your family history, and your family history could go back to like your grandparents or before, depending upon how much of an extended family you have and how much knowledge you have of where you came from, because where you came from has a lot to do with who you are. I don't know if any of you all remember textbooks that we used to use for history, the people who came um, from a long time ago when I did history in the
Caribbean history.
Caribbean history.
Caribbean history.
It really
Yeah.
focused on the back of where people came from, the Arawaks, the Caribs, or the I think there's a different name, Tienta or something like that. The first peoples, and then the interaction with the Columbus, and they have new theories now that is emerging about the the first peoples of the Americas. So there's a lot of things, but if you're not necessarily going to go all the way back there, but unless of course you are you actually can trace that history, that you have a Carib or Arawak background and that kind of stuff. But some people don't have that. Their family history only goes back maybe 1 or 2 generations. So it depends upon you and that type of thing. Then you could start to look at your family traditions and customs. And some people will say, well, we have no family traditions and customs. Well, the traditions and customs that you develop will be, especially you can see your traditions and customs occur around major events for the year. Christmas, Easter. If you're Hindu, then Diwali, and when you do your annual prayers and stuff like that. Or if you're highly temple oriented, then there's a different thing there. If you're Muslim, then it'll be what do you do during Ramadan? What do you do during Eid? And you have more than one Eid that you can speak about, because those things develop part of your traditions. How do you treat with the older people in your family, birthdays, those kind of things? What do you do as a family? Because those things tend to be the highlights of our lives when we're growing up, meeting family and having fun and that kind of stuff. Or for those things, maybe your family is just so small and isolated that you're developing your own traditions and customs privately and independently away from the rest of individuals. So it depends upon your life experience. So you can start working on this self-analysis. Now, when you get to question 3, this is specific about how do you think those factors have influenced your ideas or ideology of leadership, which means, therefore, what you're looking for, and in this case, who are your early leaders who are the early leaders in your life? They could be teachers, parents, grandparents, or just significant people in your life who were leaders, who you viewed as leaders, and how their behavior as a leader would have influenced your idea and ideology, a philosophy about what leadership is. So in a lot of instances, in my days, leadership was those people who were in charge, teachers, parents, and so on, who were able to mete out punishment. So for me, a lot of the early ideas and ideology of leadership was those people who had authority over me in terms of being able to administer punishment, which was a whole host of people when you're growing up, right? Because in my days, anybody could have beat your tail, right? I don't know if you all I don't think you all might be able to perceive that, but you had to be respectful as a young person to every elderly person that you ever met. And if you were at all cheeky, they were quite, they were allowed to discipline you, which was interesting. And you cannot and ought not to tell your parents that Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so slap you or give you a spanking, because you'll just get more. And I don't know if you all will be familiar with that particular type of lifestyle. Then, of course, we're going to be looking at evaluating when you first realized you yourself had leadership potential. That's something that, again, will be different for everybody. And who and what experiences have influenced your values and philosophies. So this kind of repeats itself from factors that have influenced your perception of leadership. But here you're talking about the values that you have adapted about being leaders. Who and what may have caused that? And this question 6 looks similar, but it's not. Here you're looking at whether or not you've met people or things have happened that caused major change in your life from one road that you've been traveling and something or somebody came along and you had a sense of realization or some form of fracturing that took place in your life that has moved you in a different direction. Those are critical instances. Generally, when we think about instances or incidences, it could be the loss of somebody, or it could be marriage, or it could be the birth of a child. It could be separation from people who were important in your life. Some things along the line that may have caused you to make some serious changes to the way in which you've led your life. Even the pandemic has led to some sort of, as a critical incident, as may have caused some serious transformations in your life. Now, in reflecting and writing about this, you realize what we're trying to get to here is you to understand who you are as a person. That makes sense? Why are you the person you are today? How did you arrive at being this person? And how does this person that you are feel about leadership in general? That makes sense? Now, there is a very little citation that might be necessary for this. So citation is not going to carry a lot of marks. In fact, I don't even put any marks for citation because you're really like writing about yourself. But if you do use things like Bible verses or famous quotations from famous people and stuff like that, please do some citation for those things. If in your writing you utilize that those techniques to help with your writing. So each question and introduction and conclusion carries some marks. As you can see the breakdown here. And then I'm going to be looking at your use of language, grammar, punctuation, spelling, sentence construction, and word selection. So that's 10 marks for that. And the way in which you organize the document. So your document has to be organized in such a way where it has a title page. It has page numbering. You use a readable font. I don't want to say which type of font, but something that you're happy with. And I'm asking for double line spacing so that I'll be able to see it to read, because I mean, these are not imaginary. I have reading issues because of my sight, so please don't kill me. And then if you need contents page, that'll be determined by if the document that you're working on starts to exceed 4 pages. Now, there are no word limits on this assignment because for some people who are younger, you may find that you don't have a lot to write about. But for other people who are older, well, it actually does not, age is not the only determinant of it. It has to do with the richness of your experiences. So young people or younger people who think are younger, may have led a very eventful life to date, and they have a lot to say and a lot to write about. So there are no word limits to these questions. What I'm looking for is a completion and taking this self-analysis seriously so that you benefit from the nature of this type of reflection and you really do get a better understanding of who you are and why you are the person you are. And that's part of the first presentation that we're dealing with here, called Understanding Self. So this chapter here, when this chapter goes, I'd expect when you do chapter 4 and 5, Understanding Self and Understanding Others, I think this can lead you into beginning the process of writing your self-analysis. And associated with that is a tool I left on this document here, the personality test questionnaire and the test interpretation. Now, I want to add a website here because there is a website called the 16 personalities test that you can utilize, and you can use the free version of it, that allows you to do that same or similar type of personality test utilizing this particular thing, and it's easy to do. The basic thing is that you need to be honest in your responses. All right, and they set it up as these kind of, quite easily. You regularly make friends. Do you agree or disagree? And how strongly do you disagree? So, I mean, you have to be, as I said, you have to be honest with it. And when you finish the questionnaire, I think I can't remember. I think it's about 15 or 20 questions. Then it gives you an analysis of who you are as an individual. All right. Kind of like, you all understanding this? Have you all ever used this before? Anybody?
So in business orientation, we had a similar test. You
You had to
did?
do one for VARC.
Yes.
That's the
Yes,
learning
sir.
styles inventory.
And yes.
All right. Yes, I'm familiar with that one but that one is about determining your learning preferences, whether or not you were, and you could also do that test if you want. I could put that link here as well. In fact, I'll put some links here in the general resources for the two, for you all to utilize those as options, and I'll have to add it to my other classes as well. Options for doing some self-assessment. And learning more about yourself, both the VARC questionnaire or what is called a learning styles inventory, and the 16 personality test. But the 16 personality test, this questionnaire here, this personality test questionnaire is a lot more detailed. It's made up of 70 questions, which you then have to score in a particular manner, and it determines the personality type by giving you a code, and that code is generally what we talk about. And the 16 personalities also does the same thing too. So try it and you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, again, those are things to help you understand more of who you are, and it will help you with your self-analysis. Because remember, if we're looking at really getting ourselves involved with the type of reflection that we're talking about here, using all these tools become helpful in terms of determining who you are as an individual and understanding yourself better. Because in order to become a leader, you'd realize that we must know ourselves very well to be able to understand other people and the context in which they're operating. And when we start to look at the definition of the leadership program that we're looking at, you will start to get that whole point of view. Which then brings us to the last assessment, assessment 5, reflections and leadership action plan. Now, there's a part of this that you can actually write up tonight or this evening or tomorrow before the next class, and that's this first question here. Let me just undo that change. All right, so this first question here. As you commence this course, and I kind of asked you all this during your introduction, as you commence this course, reflect on what are your expectations of the course, your lecturer, and yourself. You need to write this down. In fact, I would encourage you to, open a file and just name it Reflections for Leadership and Ethics class, and write down how you feel about it. Kind of freewheel it, and take the question, put it there, and start to answer it yourself, and break it up into sections. What do you expect for the course? What do you expect from me, the lecturer? What do you expect of yourself for the course? And, write up something in relation to it. Because at the end of the course, only when we finish the debate exercise can you begin to answer the rest of the questions. At the end of the course, reflect on how your expectations identified in this question before have been met or not met, because I really want you to be taking this reflection seriously, because the more honest that reflection is, the better I am at making changes to the course content to make it easier and more approachable for people. All right. Question 3, describe what you've learned about yourself during the semester in relation to your capacity to demonstrate this. So again, you really can't do this until we've really tackled the material. So the writing up of this will happen after the material has been tackled and we've actually tackled some of the other exercises in the class. But you can't forget this because this represents 15% of your final grade. All right. Describe your philosophy that you've been able to develop throughout the class. What do you see as your strengths and weaknesses in terms of leadership and how you hope to take advantage of them in the future? Has your philosophy about leadership changed from the beginning of the semester to now? And here's where you're writing in the future tense in terms of what's going to happen, and identify your style, which we will understand more about from the observations we're going to be making in the future, and what can you do, 2 action steps to continue your development. So again, each question is given a mark, and what we're really looking for is completeness of response. And then the same thing, I'm going to be looking at grammar, punctuation, spelling, sentence construction, and the same thing about fonts. Now, please feel free to be a little more creative. In these documents, you can utilize images, pictures, things. Just as long as they are things that are not yours, cite your sources. That's all you need to do. And you could use the in-text citation. You don't necessarily need to do a citation list. So if you use pictures of yourself, for example, when you're doing a self-analysis, pictures of yourself and your family and your home and things that are critical and important for you. Again, these are private documents. They're not going to be shared with anybody. And it'd be something nice that maybe you can print and put there as a self-portrait, if you understand what it, as you write about yourself. And if you have significant others in your life, you can share that with them because it becomes a really nice piece of your developmental history that people could read about. Because your story is not done. This is just along the way you've come to a point where you've written an analysis of yourself. Making sense? And if you share with other people, they may understand you better. All right. So as I said, in terms of organizing your document, just make sure it's easy to read, which regardless of what font that is, double spacing, there's a title page, page numbers, and a content page if it starts to exceed 4 pages in length. But you're free to put in pictures, images, doodles if you're good with art and stuff like that. Whatever it is that helps you with your expression. And that is the last item really in terms of the assessments. All right. The only other one that we didn't really get into a lot of detail is the debating activity. And we have to take that as we see the class develops over the period of registration. So are there questions at this point about these things? Is there anybody here? We lost more people along the way. Yes, Ms. Mirage, you have questions?
No.
I don't have any questions.
All right. Mr. Walker? We even lost the other girl.
So for the assessment, when you said to draw inspiration from people, there have to be real people or they could be fictional.
No, well, if you've drawn inspiration from fictional characters, that's you, that's your life. I can't tell you how to get inspiration. If you've gotten inspiration from fictional characters or people who don't have a physical presence. Let's say, for example, out of your thing comes from God. A lot of people would view that as, a fictional, not a fictional character, but somebody you can't really, they're non-tangible. So again, it's your life. Where did you draw your inspirations from? So no, there's not a problem if the person that you've held up to those ideals or has inspired you is imaginary character. That it doesn't matter. It does speak to some type of other issues, but we could leave that alone for now. Do you mind sharing who you're thinking of?
Well, so I don't really have a list right now.
I get it, just a what if. All right, so What I would do is the recordings from today's session, I would load them onto the e-classroom. So anybody who wants to go back and look at it to get clarification on the assignments can do so. And if for those people who missed the session, and we see we have people who are falling off the session and coming back in, the recordings will also help them to get clarification of things they might have missed. So anybody has any questions they want to ask at this point in time about anything? Everything's relatively clear. All right, well, if there are no questions, I think that's about all I need to discuss with you all at this point, and I'll see you all next week for the first session. What I would recommend you to do is to at least go through the chapter 1 and preface presentation so that you can get an idea of what content we will be dealing with next week. All right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I'm going to stop the recording now.